Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another Inside Lowell podcast. I am your host, Teddy Panos, here in the WellPoint Studios in downtown Lowell, muggy downtown Lowell on this Thursday morning, June 6th, D-Day. Going to be D-Day for our city manager, I think, in just a couple of minutes. But thank you to our friends at WellPoint. Unicare is now WellPoint, new name, same commitment to Massachusetts and to their members. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. I want to thank the rest of our sponsors as well for making our Inside Lowell podcasts possible. Of course, our friends at Washington Savings Bank. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI Properties, the newest member of the Inside Lowell family. Right on cue, you see their logo right there. From affordable to luxurious, apartments for all. Boston North Company, business solutions for restaurant and retail, and they are locally owned. Mahoney Oil, speaking of locally owned, providing warmth and protection to Greater Lowell and Southern New Hampshire since 1925, also providing support to all of our key organizations and causes here in the Lowell area. Francis E. Prevention Insurance, the agency Greater Lowell has counted on for more than 4 decades. And last but certainly not least, our friends at the Massachusetts Pirates, bringing all the action and excitement of arena football to the Tsongas Center in downtown Lowell. And with that, let's welcome in the man of the hour, the guy in the spotlight, the guy on the firing.
I don't know about the man of the hour.
Range. Lowell City Manager Tom Golden is joining us here. Good morning, Mr. Manager.
Good morning. How are you, Teddy?
I'm doing okay. Been a while since we've had you in here. Last time we had you in here, we had all sorts of good news talking about UMass Lowell's Link project, and you were here with Chancellor Chen and whatnot. That was a celebratory discussion. Mm-hmm. This one feels like I don't know. You're catching some heat the last couple of days since that budget presentation. So I want to kind of delve into some of the things. I have a lot of questions myself. I know a lot of people I'm seeing out there on social media do. And I want to give you a chance to kind of explain how things went down and why they went down the way they did. Sure. On Tuesday night.
Well, overall, we have a $583 million budget. And before people gasp, that's also inclusive of our water enterprise, our parking, as well as our wastewater. So
yeah, the other things are what, 519 million, give or take a buck or two?
So you have to think of our enterprise accounts as individual businesses that have a parent, right? The parent organization, obviously being the city. That's probably the easiest way to describe that. But I mean, we are looking at right now, there's no secret that we've had some rough starts. The first budget that I had completed was 5.5%. And I want to say thank you very much to the council for voting for that, because it has really led us to where we are today. Last year's budget was 3.5%, and this year's budget is a 2.5% increase. 2.5% increase is what people, I believe, they believe that's the baseline. But I mean, and as I stated on the floor, individuals have felt the inflationary crunch. Well, so does the city. But getting back to what we've done, we've built up, I think, a pretty good tax base, but still, having over $13 million of excess levy capacity. That excess levy capacity is monies that we do not tax. Out in Chelmsford or Drake or other towns, you'll hear often that they're going for an override of the 2.5%. We wouldn't have to do that. But our taxes are coming right where I think the original plan that I had was we had to start out. We had to put a baseline in, and that baseline has really helped us with all the road construction projects that you see going on now, the sidewalks that are getting done. The schools are a help of ARPA, but also of the tax base. In total, our debt service went up $4 million, and I'm sure there are people out there saying, no, you don't buy anything until you can afford it. Well, I would suggest that then nobody could buy a house. Not that houses are that cheap today anyhow, but it is important for this administration, as well as the council, as well as the residents of Lowell, to really dive in and support what we're trying to accomplish. We were spending close to $4 million in our horizontal construction, which is our roads, bridges, and things of that nature. Now we're up and spending $12 to $13 million. So in the past 3 years with this budget, we'll be spending upwards of $30 million. And people are starting to notice the road preservation pieces that we're doing. The sidewalks are actually getting done. the exterior of schools, have had that rotten parking lot for a while. We're going to, by the end of, by hopefully the start of this September, I believe it'll be 6 that have been completed. And that can't happen without the revenue. And that revenue comes from the taxpayers. Well, 31% of it comes from the taxpayers. The remainder of it comes from the state government and some of the federal government. So overall, I'm feeling good about the budget. There are plenty of questions that people have, and fire away.
All right,
let's get rolling.
Let's start with the first one that you mentioned. Well, just a 2.5% increase.
Correct.
Some folks will say, yeah, 2.5%, but throw in the trash fees, throw in the water and sewer increase, throw in the parking.
Sure.
Suddenly 2.5% becomes 3.5%, whatever number it is.
Well, the user fees, right? So on the 2.5%, just on the homes, it's about $150 for a house that's worth $450,000. If anybody, I usually pick up my cell phone or one of them. People, we're walking around now with cell phones that are worth $600, $700. This is for the entire year, this $150. Now, on the user fees, I'm a big proponent of if you use it, you pay for it. And that's, once again, it's a thorny subject. It really, truly is. People don't like when anything goes up. They don't even like when their value of the home goes up, because when your value of your home goes up, your taxes go up. So that being said, it's a thorny issue when we start talking about, let's say, parking issues. Now, parking issues, you at one time paid to park. I don't, because I live outside of the downtown area. So there is an argument to be made, well, if I'm not using it, why do I have to pay for it? That's a partial argument. I don't necessarily agree with it, but because if you're not using the schools, why should you pay for them? We pay for a better community, a better life, a better city, and whatnot. So as far as parking goes, we've raised that, and that was to the irritation of people that use that every single day as their primary place to park their vehicles, and some of the businesses, quite honestly. But now we've looked at trash, right? So condo owners were paying for trash removal for the entire city. We had not increased our trash fee since 2008. So my idea, which I fully readily admitted on the floor, maybe I got too aggressive with it, but I think it's fair to ask people to pay what it costs to throw trash away. So I went up to $325, which was a $200 increase. That was not seen favorably by the council. I heard about it, and I want to thank all of the councilors because they were very, very instrumental in talking to me about it and honest to God, leading in a different manner and saying that this needs to become we know it needs to happen, but let's do it in a different phase. So that's when I went from the raising it by $200 per year, by the way, to $100 per year. And that led to the cut of approximately $1.77 million.
So as I said yesterday on a podcast, I did my Big Fat Lowell podcast, you caved.
Yes.
You heard there was pressure from counselors, there was pressure from constituents, and you caved. And they're still hammering you, by the way, just because you went up to $225,
right.
They're still hammering you. Sometimes you have to rip the Band-Aid off. And you brought up an important point. My father's a commercial property owner.
That's right.
He has to pay for his own dumpster, $448 a month.
Correct.
Okay, $448 a month.
Yep.
Not $425 a year. He doesn't get city trash pickup, doesn't get yard waste pickup, doesn't get any of the above. When I lived at 305 Dutton, I got none of those services, right? The people on Broadway Street with no yard don't do weekly yard waste pickup in the summer months, spring, summer, and fall months. You didn't cut the trash fee. You just reassigned it into the general fund. And sure, people are still paying more than just the trash fee. If they may not realize it, sure. They're just spreading the wealth or the poverty with a lot of other people. But why did you give in on that?
I think it's important to do it in a stepped up manner. I'm very aggressive when it comes to paying your own way, right? And I think that as one of the councilors has stated to me, we know it's warranted, but it's too much too fast. So, and I get that. I really truly do. You're trying to do a balance. Trying to balance the $519 million budget with a few cuts here and there, trying to make sure that everybody's getting what they deserve. Those are real challenges every single day. Should I have probably just went up 100? Yeah, hindsight being 2020, sure I should have. But once again, I look at things that if this is what you're doing, and I'm not going to fall into the trap of the schools. I don't fall into that trap. I think it's better for society. You don't have students, I shouldn't be paying for schools. That's just a load of malarkey, in my opinion. But when it comes to trash, when it comes to parking, I'm not saying the city shouldn't pay anything or that overall tax residents shouldn't pay anything, but the majority of it should be borne by who the user is. But this has driven us into a different arena, if you would. Councillor Scott had been bringing this up with me about pay as you throw. In all of these different programs that we have textiles that we're going to be pushing out. We have food waste that, by 2030, the state says we should be doing all of our food waste, which is going to be a challenge for everybody. We have textiles, food waste, and the like. We are actively, and we have been, but it doesn't happen in a day. It's not like I can call any one of the waste companies, and Waste Management is our current contractor, which is of course under fire for missing streets and missing days and things like that. But this isn't like Burger King, McDonald's, Wendy's. You can have it your way. There's probably 3-4 major companies that bid on this stuff, and they're all experiencing the same problems. I will not accept Waste Management's. That's their problem. It's our contract. We have started finding them, which we have not done. But because of what's happening there, we're finding them. But we're also looking at trash in a different manner. And hopefully, if pay as you throw works, I'd had some great conversations with the folks down in Worcester. We're going to be really dialing in with them to find out if Worcester can do it, Lowell can do it. Do you really save money and how?
So all these things that you talk about are great, food composting, textiles, whatever, but they cost money, and those costs are escalating far quicker than trash, which at this point, it's cheaper to just burn the trash or whatever they do with it than it is to figure out who's going to take the recycling off their hands, et cetera, if they're not actually burning the recycling itself at this point, and who knows what they're doing with the textiles, et cetera. But Waste Management, you're right, their service has been terrible lately. But I'll tell you that in Chelmsford, I see trucks out there on non-week, non-holiday Saturdays as well. They're falling behind in other communities as well. You can find them, which is great.
Which we have.
My thought is you're going to just pay those fines back to them in the next contract, because they're keep kind of like an insurance company. Oh, sure, you can put in a claim and they'll cover it, but try to renew at the end of the year and see what your loss runs look like.
And I say there's 3 or 4 big companies, right? So, and that's honestly, that's what I know of. They're probably, Teddy and Tom's trash pickup service that can't do what they do. So we're going to put that out to bid within the next coming year. It does end in December, and we're working through this right now. But we're working through how we're going to attack this, and we have been for probably the last 3-4 months. But all of the companies, my understanding, are still running into problems. And trying to compare, say the city of Lowell to maybe any other town, it's a little bit different of an animal. I think we're talking about 26,000 totes throughout the city of 200 and, you can say 80 miles. We don't own all those mileage, but 280 miles, that's a big difference. No excuses for Waste Management. They're a national company. They're a big enough company. They're still experiencing some issues, but we're going to continue to hold their feet to the fire with fining them, as well as putting it out to bid at some point.
All right. There's been talks about having multiple companies doing it, and everybody just kind of assumed each company will get a zone or a neighborhood, one side of the river, the other side of the river. As I was researching my stuff for an article I was writing, I discovered that there are some communities where they don't split it by zone. The user, the homeowner, property owner, whatever, negotiates with the company, and then you get a different, so you could have was it Worcester that does it, or which?
Worcester picks up their own trash.
Okay, but there was one community where there was like, you got a yellow barrel if you were with, we're just going to throw out Republic, a red barrel if you were, so whatever. Yeah. So it was up to the residents to make the choice, and some offered better deals and whatnot. Is that the wave of the future? Just let people figure out what they want to do in terms of how often they want their pickup, how big of a barrel they want. Do they want to do recycling? Do they want to do yard waste? And for the folks who are money conscious, and you got to make tough budget decisions. I get it, especially if you're on a fixed income. Like I said, maybe you don't want yard waste.
Right.
Thing, right? Why should I pay an extra whatever that number is annually, 50, 100, whatever, so somebody else can enjoy that service? Is that a possibility? Is that something you'd look at legitimately?
We're looking at everything, but I don't know if we'd have 4 or 5 different companies, on the same street. You picked the red company, I picked the blue company. John next door picked the yellow company. I don't know if that could actually work, and I don't know financially if that's feasible. Financially, I think typically when you're ordering in bulk, when you say, hey, we have 26,000 accounts, who wants them? We've even looked at offering it to some of the contiguous towns to see if they would like to jump on. Would it help Lowell? Maybe a tad bit, but it would probably help some of our other communities in the greater Lowell area a little bit more because of the purchasing power. I've offered it to the town managers that I see, hey, if you want to jump in on our quote to see if it helps you, have at it. I mean, it can only help us, not really going to hurt us. But I think that there's a power in numbers that will continue to drive that down. I think what you would find out if you had 3 or 4 or 5 companies just booking for business, I don't know if I think you're going to have more problems. We experience issues, especially around condos, that they hire the ABC company that is not the hauler for the city of Lowell. Well, sometimes they're in at 6 a.m. Sometimes they're in at 5:30 a.m. and they're raising holy hell, and waking everybody up. Believe me, I've had more of my share of phone calls with that.
Yeah, they're in the downtown streets at 5:30 in the morning because they want to get the hell out of there before the traffic begins.
Gets there.
We experience that. All right, that's trash. You mitigated the beating you took on that. Though
I think anytime you raise a fee, a tax, or whatever, you can call it whatever you want, there's going to be a certain group that will turn and say, you can do more with less. And in this matter, and from the trash perspective alone, we take in approximately $3.2 million. It costs us $8 million. It's not even close. This is not something that you can brush away. So to anybody that says we can't do that, we shouldn't do that, I'm just going to push back and say that's not possible.
So for those saying you got to go up gradually, so do you go up another 50 next year, or is that too soon? Do you go up 25 next year? At some point in the next 4 to 5 years, you're getting back to 325.
Sure. Yeah, 100%.
Trash, right?
Or we're going to experience the pay as you throw. We're going to do pay as you throw. We're going to do textiles. We're going to give people that opportunity at the curbside to do this. So maybe we don't have to go up another $100 or, in some type of escalation. But once again, it is a user fee. We could absolutely positively get rid of the trash fee. We could do it tomorrow, not a problem, right? But then you would have to end up in that $8 million, if that's a true cost, right? $8 million to pick it up, burn it, send it, rail it, do whatever that could be, whatever that may be. That'd be approximately 1% is $1.7 million. So you're probably talking 4.5% increase in taxes. So I don't think that's palatable.
Could you even make recycling optional in Massachusetts? I saw Pensacola, Florida did it. That's not an option here in Massachusetts.
We're going to always have to do something. But once again, years ago, our recycling was worth something. People were buying it from us. That's not happening anymore. So the bottom of the recycling dollars, that bottom fell out. It's gone. So now yes, we do have 2 barrels. Yes, it's better for the environment. I'm sure that's what do you call your cousin there? The hyphen.
The hyphen,
Michaela, who I love. The hyphen. She would probably argue that absolutely not. We can't do that because it's and she's right. I think we need to do it better. And if we're going to do it better, how is that going to save us money?
Those who opt into a service are usually going to be the ones who contaminate the least. That's what they're finding in the communities that have done this. That you pay for recycling or whatever. The ones who are deciding to pay for it are usually the contaminating it the least, and they're willing to pay.
And our contamination, by the way, was at 24% over the past, I think it's 3 years we had. We have a new team on right now, and we're down to 17%. What I stated on the floor just a few nights ago was absolutely true. I was out doing my thing. I'm up and out early, as we were talking about earlier, and my team was out earlier, and they were tagging people, turning barrels around. In some instances, they do find people. They really do. In some instances, we try not to find because it's a really teachable moment. And what they do is they're writing down, 24 Monroe Street. I'll end up saying somebody else's. That's mine.
Say your own address.
My own address. So what they do is I physically have seen them. They tag it, they put information on it, and they turn it around. So therefore, that is the one time that people will see, okay, oh, wow, what did I do here? This is a mistake. Okay, great. They're going to come back to check that. barrel to make sure you're into compliance. And if you're not, they're going to start to fine you.
Okay. Which will bring up a whole other problem. We'll save that for when the fines start to get to a level where you start to hear the complaints from residents and councilors.
They're doing about 500 checks a day, and I've seen how they do it. It's quite, they're not dumpster diving. They're giving a good look. But I believe they're doing about 80 fines per week.
All right. So the other main complaint was the process you got there to reduce that trash fee, and that was to make $1.7 million in cuts across all sorts of departments. Except I found out about it about 4:30 on the day of the budget, which was about a half hour after the councilors were notified.
Correct.
Is that the first time you notified councilors that you were making some major changes to the budget?
I spoke to the council, and I speak to them all the time. Every councilor, there is no, when you're watching the city council meeting, there are many councilors that just call. Some don't speak often or much at all when it comes to the council, because we've already hammered out some things. If there's a problem, an issue, a challenge, they're not waiting till Tuesday night most of the time. And that's all the councils. There's constant communication between, I would say, my office, me personally, my assistant city managers, the department heads and whatnot, to the council consistently. They knew something was happening, but you think cutting 1.7 million out of 519 is easy. Not necessarily, because what we were doing is, instead of me taking the red pen out and just doing this with the CFO, we called all the department heads and said, okay, great. We need to flex a little bit here. What can you do percentagely? How can we get this down? And I got to tell you something. The department heads that work here in the city of Lowell, a second to none. We have a lot of folks who are champions, who are really working hard. And they, Mr. Manager, we hear it. We know what you got to do. And they're lining up. And what they cut is what they feel as though they can handle. Now, there was, some discussion. Well, that's 1.7 more than we need to tax. No, we're going to find out later on. We may have been correct. We may not have been correct. My guess is we're going to be close, but we're not going to be able to do a few other things. And they're small things. It's not like anyone's going to, it's not like we're not going to have someone show up to your home. There'll be small things that my guess is that later on we'll see, oops, we're out of money.
I do want to address that, because it was basically questioned by Councilor Dakota, like, were these department heads padding the budget if they could so easily? And I looked at a lot of office supplies. There was a couple of big numbers around fuel costs, heating, electricity, whatever, at the schools. So I can see why he would question that, and I do want to get into that. But going back to the process, so you had a meeting 2 weeks before the public hearing on the budget, and you basically got the message. The council was like, "Hey, can you please
let's bring
go easy on the trash?" And you heard from the residents.
Right. And that's 100% on me.
When did you start the process? So when did you notify your department? The next day?
Yeah, we started right out of the gate. We knew we were going to cut. I said, well, once again, this is my opinion. My opinion is pay for what you use. That's okay. I was wrong. Okay. Or it wasn't accepted, which is totally fine. So immediately we had a shift, and we started looking at what is the best way to cut this. How can we accomplish this? And
did it take 2 weeks to get to that process?
It was okay. It was being done,
because people saying, and then you should have notified the council. Hey, look, we're working on this. We'll give you the specific cuts, and maybe give it to them a couple of days ahead of time so they can look at the budget. I would have loved to have given it to them
2 days after we did it, but that's we took the time to meet, talk, phone calls with department heads to find out how we can do this. And you'll see percentagely, even some were hit harder than others. Some
DPW got hit hard, and your office.
My office got hit hard. Yep. But we dialed in, and we're hoping on the energy side that a couple of our solar panels pull off what I think they should pull off, which should happen, and that's where. Catherine Moses is, by the way, an absolute superstar. And we talked about this, and we talked about how this should happen. this, the $200,000 plus dollars. Now, if it doesn't happen, like I said, that's a mistake that would be on me. That would be saying, listen, we're a little short on this. So that's a future discussion.
All right, but you didn't go back to revert to your state representative days, do things under the cloak of darkness, and then give the city council the thing at the last possible minute so that they couldn't really delve into it and challenge you.
Most of the councilors, when we were talking about this, it said, listen, he said, I'm going to be cutting out of departments, here, and you might hear some that are going to complain. I didn't hear any complaints from the department heads, because we took the time to say to them, this is an issue, this is a problem. Most departments have been doing very, very well. Some departments were cut thousands of dollars. I mean, the finance committee, I think, was cut $50 or $100 or something like that, because they don't really have a big budget, But other larger budgets took the hit. Over in the police department, we had six folks that were coming in on internships. It cost $90,000 or $95,000 in my head that I'm thinking about right now. Maybe we can fill that back in later on. That was one of the cuts out of LPD. There were no uniform folks. Nobody lost their job. There were a couple of things we looked at. We did retract some things in all that manner to try to take a percentage here, percentage there. And honestly and truly, if I would have had that done 4 hours later, I would have given it to everybody. We're really working up to the line.
So there are no layoffs in that $1.7 million.
No, there are jobs that will not be filled.
Okay. One job that did get filled / created caught an awful lot of attention, and there's been a lot of conspiracy theories in the aftermath, so I want to talk about it.
Sure.
That was the part-time $85,000 a year law department position.
That's correct.
Which you guys didn't exactly explain what it was. Neither you nor the solicitor nor the CFO. You kind of seem to be talking, like trying to hide something in there.
People have said that, but we were caught a little bit by surprise. Didn't think it was that big of a deal, to be honest with you. And that's my bad.
When was that position created?
Last year.
Last year.
And when we started to do our negotiations. In this, I don't like to talk about names particularly. People can look it up, but trying to focus on one particular person and say why. This person that is in this current job has quite frankly given unbelievable advice, because the person was there for so many years and had done so much contract work for us, and working part-time right now, filling that in. If we lock up all of our contracts, things should be good, but I don't know if that will happen. I'm not at liberty to say if all of our we have 17 CBAs with collective bargaining agreements, and during the current CBA system that we're doing right now, the 17 units, it's important to note that prior to this, we also opened up most of the CBAs prior to, and that's what that person was working on. What do I talk about? I'm talking about the finances where we increased pay just about a year and a half ago to segments of city workers, and that wage adjustment that we kind of brought in, that person was working on that as well. So we've since I've been here for 2 years, 2+ couple months, we've been working on these CBAs for 2 years.
Was it known to the counselors who were questioning that who this person is? And I realize why you don't want to say the name.
Well, it's just because it's not.
But was it known to them that this person was in that role?
I don't know that. I thought everybody knew, but I can't say that would be that would be the case.
Okay. There's a lot of talk about it, and I want to give you an opportunity to address it, that this person was given that position as a reward for past favors done. Not just, this person was a longtime city employee.
Yes.
Who was hired now on a part-time basis.
Yes.
And this person has done all sorts of favors for all sorts of people, not necessarily the people, but for friends, family, etc. And that you benefited as well in your 2 years as city manager, but so did Eileen Donahue, so did Kevin Murphy.
I haven't heard any council.
Bernie Lynch, etc.
Not one councilor has said that. Not one councilor has said that to me.
Maybe they've not said it to you, but if you go around social media, and there's an awful lot of this going on, and
any person that would say that doesn't know the integrity of me or other city managers, doesn't understand the integrity of the person that is helping us right now, that doesn't need to. And that's just, that does not come from any counselor. That's absurd on its face. to think that we would take care of somebody because they took care of other people. We took care of somebody because they did their job. No, we took care of somebody. We didn't take care of anybody. We asked somebody to stay to assist us. So on its face, completely absurd. And I don't think any council has repeated that to me.
And so this wasn't a position that you could have put out to bid and hired somebody from Boston or Worcester or whatever.
The historical, when you're dealing with CBAs, with the coalition bargaining agreements, when you're dealing with the CBAs, it's always very comfortable. Currently, right now, what we're not looking at is the people that are in this room currently, right now, dealing with CBAs. There are now, today, 2 people that have been there prior to. There's only one person, the person that we're talking about, who has been there the entire time, that knows the CBAs, that knows, well, wait a minute, back in X time, we did this for that. We did this for that. And it was, a question was brought up.
Why is that important in the next negotiation?
It's always
why is that such a big deal?
Because you don't always have historical knowledge of, we gave you this and you got that. The back and forth. Like I can tell you right now from the CBAs that we're doing right now, I know what Teddy gave up. Teddy Panos gave up in exchange for what I gave. That's not always written down. That is not how that has worked. Should it have? Yeah. Some of the CBAs, a lot of the CBAs need work. They're in piles of paperwork, and these amendments are just, we'll get to the amendment later, and it's just slid underneath. We're going to be in the process of hopefully, and I say hopefully, because this is one of those nice to do, but it'll be a heck of a lot nicer to do for the next CBA discussion, which will be 3 years out.
How long will this position exist? Is it basically when you're done with these negotiations, does that position end?
It could. Yeah, it could. If there's other things that we need, I'm not so sure. Once again, it's getting into negotiations, which we're currently doing right now. And if I said that it was going to end tomorrow, then that might indicate that all the CBAs are signed, which that's not something I'm at liberty to say right now.
Okay. We're chatting with Lowell City Manager Tom Golden. He's joining us here in the WellPoint Studios talking about the budget process last night. And we've spent 31 minutes pretty much talking about it, which is interesting because the budget overall, it wasn't that contentious. I mean, I've seen some budget debates where there's a lot more honing in on things.
Sure.
Not recently. A lot of folks use the term rubber stamp, but I mean, I've seen a lot worse budget discussions, which tells me overall the budget was pretty good. It was passed 10-1 with the one saying, I didn't necessarily not like the budget, but I didn't like the fact that we didn't get it, the revisions.
And that's something, once again, that is my fault. Nobody else's fault other than me. And that's, I've apologized to the council as a whole. Matter of fact, spoke right after the meeting, spoke before the meeting. We got it to everyone as soon as possible, and some of the councilors are very, very interested in receiving stuff earlier. And one of the pieces, and I think they're correct. However, the only pushback I would have is when I was doing the state of the city in the beginning of the year, I put a placeholder on Thursday. It starts to get uploaded. Everything starts to get uploaded Thursday. It's not archaic. It's just how the system works. For instance, we will upload everything for Tuesday's meeting on Thursday. So when I'm not ready, and this is a prime example, in January when I did the State of the City, I didn't put the State of the City in there because, quite frankly, it wasn't ready. I used the entire weekend to take something out, put it back in, and then, oh, damn it, take it back out and then put it back in again, just to see how I wanted to flow. The revisions that we were working on, I can, once again, I can tell you that it was being worked on that morning because there were things that we cut, didn't cut, looked back, brought it in. Where else can we, cut this? It was a challenge.
But in retrospect, should you have even Tuesday morning just sent out an email going, hey, gang, listen, I heard you. We're going to roll back the trash fee.
Right.
I'm trying to finalize specifically how. I'll let you know as soon as we know. Should you have at least done that?
We did. Well, I talked to all the councilors.
You did?
Yeah, I talked to them, but what's not fair, what is not fair to the council, and as a matter of fact, it's right. It's here. I did not get to the 1.7 million cut until that afternoon, till 2:30. I think it was the final 2:30. Somehow, some way, I should have at least got it to him on Saturday, but I just didn't have the time to do it.
Okay. Is that the exact number, by the way?
1.7, yeah.
To account for the trash fee?
Correct, 1.78, I think it was.
It wasn't padded a little bit so you could easily get to that number if and when you had to?
That's no. It's really, you can follow those numbers. of what it costs to what we pay those folks every month.
Okay. What if the department heads were right with their original budget and they needed X amount of office supplies, they needed X amount of gas, electricity costs or whatever? How do you then dip into free cash?
We would have
going forward, since you've cut that out.
We won't get free cash numbers certified until February, probably January, February is a typical time for us. Some people get it earlier because some people, for instance, Cambridge gets it right out of the gate. Their auditing department, I think, is twice the size of us, same size city. And they just do it differently. They have our auditors are hard workers. They do a great job. But between the CFO, all of our finance team, the auditors, the normal time frame for us is January, February. Okay. So yes, we would have to go back. And once again, I will take the hit. I'll eat crow on this. We have to move things around. But there's also the opportunity that, the department heads, they know they got to bring that belt in a notch, So, but I don't think it's going to really interfere. Well, at least, but I have to be honest, I hope it doesn't interfere.
Okay, which brings us to the final kind of critique of this budget and, quite frankly, your past budgets. Free cash. Mm-hmm. One counselor in particular, Counselor Gitchier, has long argued, why are we having so much money in free cash? Mm-hmm. We should use that to lower the tax base. We should be using it, etc. Why do you have so much money in free cash?
It's going to be a fundamental disagreement. I'm following along with the Department of Revenue. The Department of Revenue is consistently asking us to be 3 to 5% of free cash.
Which is what's that specific number? The
3%. You're making me do math here. At this morning here would be 250. Would be God. What is wrong with me here?
But like 10 million. We're talking about like 10 to 13 million based on the 3 to 13.
Okay. 8 to 13. And I will stand.
That's what you are required by law by the Department of Revenue to have this?
I will stand to be corrected on this 8 to 13 because finances.
All right, we'll throw this, but there is a number that you're required to be
Not required. Suggested.
Suggested.
It is suggested.
What happens if you're not at that number?
Nothing. Nothing would happen.
What happens to your bond rating if you're not at that number?
The bond rating, we just went through a bond rating discussion just yesterday.
You got a nice improvement on it.
Well,
last couple of months ago, you got another one coming?
We have another one coming. I don't know if it's going to be an improvement, but they like where we're going.
Okay.
But getting back to free cash is vitally important. There's another piece that is never talked about, and we borrow $3 million every year, and we're trying to push it down. Now it's just slight. We pushed it down this year. We borrow $3 million from our savings account every year from our stabilization fund. They've been doing it for 10, 12 years. It's the wrong way to do things. We shouldn't be doing it, but we do. So out of free cash, we pay that back immediately. The bond folks see that, and they know that we're being responsible. Okay. My goal would be to continue to bring that down. What does that mean? We could blow a hole in the budget of $3 million. We're sitting on $15 million of savings in our savings account, our rainy day account, if you will, our stabilization. You can call it whichever way you want.
15 million you could give back to the taxpayers.
That's correct.
Okay.
But 15 million of the let's say we had a 9-seat cut tomorrow, which I'm hoping we would never have from the state. And let's say there was a 9-seat cut to Chapter 70 or UGG or any of our accounts, we would be looking to the city council to say we should take $1 million from our stabilization rainy day account. But getting directly back to the free cash piece, we absolutely should have free cash. There's no question about it. We give it back. We borrow on our free cash. Currently, right now, I think it's $2 million it's going to be $2 million for our parking enterprise fund. And so once again, that's borrowed. So we're not jacking up rates. That's how that works. I'm not saying it's the best, but we're going to continue. How do we make that not happen? We do things that are hard. And this council has done this hard work. We've increased our fees at parking. We've increased our trash. We've increased taxes. Coming out of the gate, it was high. And I think I stated this. I would have to go back and look. But it would settle down. And we're in year 3 right now. Things are settling, and the proof is in the pudding. If you look to see the amount of money, the amount of work that is being done in the schools, not just because of ARPA, okay? A lot of this money is our taxpayer money because of what we did in year 1 year 2 tax rate, and now year 3 is stabilizing to the more more acceptable, I think, the 2.5%. Anybody that talks about a 0% tax increase, that's just not possible.
Okay, but
well, without losing services, you could absolutely.
Yeah,
You could let me rephrase that. You could absolutely do a 0% increase. You will lose services.
And but again, if somebody out there wants to start, counselors, if you want to start that charge, citizens, I'm ready to go with you. Let's go with the recycling. Let's go to the state and tell them reverse these costs,
Right.
blah, blah. I'm with you. I'll fight these battles. Pension reform, health insurance, we'll do all of it.
Our 4 big accounts, the 4 big accounts was an increase of $12 million. We didn't do anything, right?
That's what you have to keep up with. Okay.
The only one that we're responsible for, let me say, PERAC, kind of not responsible for. That's something we have. Healthcare, once again, we have a good healthcare system. The debt service. The debt service is the big one that went up $4.1 million. Why did that go up $4.1 million? Because what we're doing to our roads, what we're doing to our firehouses that has never been done, what we're doing to our municipal buildings, what we're doing to our school buildings, all costs additional monies. That just alone went up $12 million on that particular budget. How do you close that gap? So if you want to do a 0%, if you ever wanted to do, which we've done in the past, and I'm not,
Yep.
you'll lose people, you lose services. There's just no question about that.
Okay.
Unless we can find a way like trash, and I'm not bullish yet on this. I'm kind of excited.
You keep hinting. I'm going to bet you pay a lot more in your next trash contract than you're paying now.
I'm excited to what could be. And that's why I took this job. I'm excited to see what we can do. And that's why I don't have a problem apologizing on the floor saying I went too far too fast. And that was me. That's not on the council. The council gives me the ideas, gives me their thoughts, and then I try to shape it in a way that is going to make them proud to vote for a budget, that is going to make them proud because they have to defend it as well. And the only thing that I'm unhappy about, there's 2 things I'm unhappy about. 1, I went too far too fast on the trash. And 2, I didn't have the cuts readily available in a timely manner.
Okay. But just so folks have an understanding, let's say you decide to take the advice of people, and I gave this advice all the way back to Bernie Lynch, long before you. What do you have free cash for? What do you have a rainy day fund for if you're not going to use it when it rained? Because it rained when Bernie Lynch was manager.
It did.
It rained during COVID.
That's right.
As well.
Well, we had COVID money, though.
But then you got COVID money to make it up. Right. But if you decide, okay, let's follow the advice of those who say give it back, cut the budget and give it back to the taxpayers, reduce the amount of free cash. More than likely, assuredly, your bond rating will drop, correct?
It would be...
Which means you pay more on your borrowing, correct?
It would
How much more? Are we talking hundreds of thousands? Are we talking millions?
Millions. I mean, here's
so you could save the taxpayers millions of dollars by taking it out of free cash, and then you charge the taxpayers again for the interest.
But let's look
on your borrowing.
So you're damned
Right?
if you do, you're damned if you
Okay.
don't. If you don't have a savings account.
That's how I understood it from Bernie Lynch.
Yes.
And I just want to make sure that's still the
is
case,
still
because
the case.
I'm seeing this renewed focus of it from the citizenry. And I don't think they understand that the system is what's broke. What is mandated by the agencies and the Department of Revenue is what's causing this. You guys kind of have to live by it.
Just yesterday, we went through a standard S&P rating call where all of this was discussed. Just yesterday. And now they're going to get back to us in time to say, and this is Standard & Poor that says we're either doing a good job or we're not doing a good job. Standard & Poor in their last report says we're doing very well for the city. There's a couple things we're always going to have to work on. We're AA- right now. Is that can we get to AA? I hope. Do I think we will? Not yet. I don't think we will, but I'll be pleasantly surprised. It was a great conversation yesterday of exactly how we're doing. They seemed, happy. But once again, when you're talking to rating agencies, they sit there in the Excel spreadsheet and they pump it all in and, they come out with the answer. Now, the answer is not always exactly what we want, but given the fact that I think with the city of our size being AA-, utilizing the bond rating as well of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which we're usually fortunate enough to do, that brings it down a tad. But how does it cost? Hundreds of thousands or millions? It just depends on what the overall interest rate is. 3 years ago, it wouldn't have cost anything. Wouldn't have mattered. Right? Today, Today, having the stabilization fund, rainy day account, call it what you will, of $15 million is definitely helping us. There's no question about that with the rating agencies.
All right. City Manager Tom Golden, kind enough to join us here in the WellPoint studios. And I just want to hit on a couple of things that have nothing to do with the budget.
The boss called, Doreen called and said, I'm fine.
Okay. But before that, I want to give you an opportunity. You know, the council likes to wish happy birthdays. Councilor birthday, Paul Ratayem. Is there anybody out there that you would like to wish a happy birthday to? And you better get this right, because I saw your social media post this morning.
My wife, Joan. I want to wish her a happy birthday. We put out a couple of photos, and she's the best mom, the best friend you could have, and she's obviously a lovely person for putting up with me. By
far your better half, but you had it out. I was awake insanely early this morning, and you had already beat me to the punch, wishing her a happy birthday.
I try to get up early every morning.
What time do you wake up every day?
5 o'clock, right in that range.
5 a.m.
And unfortunately, it's normal. It doesn't, and I try to hit.
You don't sleep till 10 or 11 and go watch Springer for a little bit?
Well, it's a lot easier when my wife is up that early. She's up that early to get to work. But if I don't hit the gym in the morning, or try to hit the gym in the morning, and then try to just start the emails and everything else to start the day, it's a great job. This job is absolutely fantastic. I love it. I still thank the council every time we talk about this. This job is challenging. I just spoke to a teacher walking in when we have, the coffee. She was just like, I'm so happy with what you're doing. She's like, it's hard and I can see it, but I really, truly love the city. I love what I'm doing. And to the council, once again, that's on me. When mistakes happen like this, when I get too aggressive on fines and fees and things of that nature, that's on me. They are the pulse of the city, and then I react to that. Or what did you say I did? I folded?
You caved.
I caved.
You folded, caved. You caved on the trash. Well, I'm going to criticize you.
Was it Kenny Rogers? You know when to fold, when to hold them, when to fold them?
You should have. They're hammering you anyway. Even though you went down, they're still hammering you on social media.
I could have went safe. I could have went the safe route.
You could have.
And you know something, you should be safe, but sometimes you have to get aggressive, and I admitted that. But we're going to continue to try to change things. I think that what people see overall is a real change in the city, a real change in what's happening. ARPA has definitely helped. There is no question about that. However, with the additional monies that we're able to our debt service and the things that we're doing with school ARP, with the accelerated repair program, we have 8 projects that are starting all throughout the city, which I named earlier, actually at the council. That is all because the council is allowing me to do this, because that's an 80-20 split. That's the easy way to say it. But that's the council allowing me to borrow this money, and the only way we can do this with our roadway projects, with our fire stations, with our schools, is with that debt.
Okay. Hamilton Canal, Salapoli. Hot topic for a month and some change. I had a bunch of counselors come sit in there.
Yep.
We asked questions. Everybody was looking forward to that executive session where Salapoli was going to get the boot. It was evident. The votes were there to tell him, you're out of Hamilton Canal. You reneged on your deal. You're gone. You guys had that executive session, and then all of a sudden...
The best part about this...
2, 3, 4 weeks later? Executive session, right. Even the counselors who wanted everything public and were dropping bombs, all over the place, all of a sudden they went quiet. You guys got some news. Guys got some news in that executive session, some legal advice that told you it isn't that cut and dried. Didn't you?
It's always about negotiations. This is always a negotiation.
Backroom deals or negotiations?
Negotiations.
Okay.
I'm
using that's the terminology. Backroom deals.
That's something. Once again, that's not a counselor. Saying that, because they know what's going on, especially in this matter. And anyone that says that is just looking to stir the pot, kick something. But backroom. There are no backroom deals. There's negotiations of trying to get to yes. One of the pieces that I've continued to try throughout this what are we at? April, May, June, 26 months, is trying to get to yes on deals, on any transaction at all. That takes a lot of talk, a lot of discussion, a lot of back and forth. Just because you say A, I say B, that doesn't mean it's going to end up there. Someplace it's going to end up C, hopefully. That's what we all are interested in, getting something done.
But what changed? I mean, I did the council counting, and there was a majority to say, all right, thank you for your efforts, Mr. Lipoli.
I know you're going to keep trying,
but you're out. And now that's not happening. And you say negotiations. So is there a chance that Sal Lipoli and the city find some agreement, or is the negotiation, how do we get out of here without getting sued and losing money and the developer?
I think the council, as well as the administration, we're always trying to get to that yes. So you have an idea, I have an idea, let's try to put in the middle. It's always discussion and negotiation, just like I'm doing with other parties right now. There's no secret. I've had now I'm up to 7. I've had 7 different developers in trying to look at over by the MBTA zoning. I'm not pushing away from the sale piece. I'm not. I just so you don't think I'm trying to redirect this thing. But all of that right now is still negotiating. The 7. There is definitely 7 other folks that are in, not looking in that area, looking around the city, trying to see what we can do. That is always, you can call it backroom deals or whatever, but a lot of these conversations just consistently are happening day in and day out. And when you hear the announcement, we have, hopefully we have more announcements with Link coming soon. But once again, my partner on that, I would never move without talking to the Chancellor. Julie Chen is just phenomenal. You've seen that. I really believe that. Our relationship with the university has never been stronger, but we're having discussions with those folks. Those folks are trying to move into the city. Those folks that came in second. There are a lot of organizations that were trying to get into Link that came in second. Some came in third. There's been a renewed discussion around the area. So when hopefully that
include renewed discussions about uses in Hamilton Canal, since they can't get into.
That's correct.
Into Link.
So all of those discussions are happening. The biggest piece that is stopping anything from happening right now is this interest rate that we're having a challenge with. Even our biggest players, national biggest players, are not moving. And they're slow walking, or however you want to say this. But the conversations I've been having have just been phenomenal. The fact that the city and the university are coming together on Link, I think I've explained it in the past, is explosive. It's explosive. Our potential in our future, if we can get these interest rates down just a tad, I think we're all going to be extremely happy with what happens next.
From your lips to God's ears. So whether it's Sal Lipoli or another developer, my thought is you're never getting a 13-story office tower. Boston's not getting 13-story office towers at this point. Can you get 8 stories, first floor retail, second and third floor commercial use, 4th through 8th residential? Can you get some kind of a hybrid of the original Lipoli proposal with the 5-story housing?
I know.
Is that doable?
I know.
Whether it's with any developer, is that feasible in this market, in this climate?
Once you get into steel becomes a problem.
5 stories and above has to be
72 feet, right? Yep. Steel is, and I'm not talking about any other issue. The number one thing that I hear from these folks that we've been talking to is that steel is an issue right now. And everyone will say, no, it's down. It's not down from 2019 numbers, correct, right? Prior to COVID. And it just, it shot up ridiculously. And thank you very much to the delegation, because as you know, we were out of whack by $38 million on Lowell High. And quite frankly, I would have done the same thing. When steel was moving in the direction that it was just rocket ship. And everyone's like, it can't get any higher, right? It's going to adjust. It didn't. And then the third time, it can't get any higher. And it did. And I would have made, something? I would have made the same decision. And it just does, people want to try to blame folks for this. That's Monday morning quarterback type stuff. I won't do that. But it was our delegation led by Senator Kennedy that came in and got us that money. If you would have told me we were going to get any additional assistance on this to mitigate that $38 million, I spent a lot of time in Beacon Hill. That was epic. What our delegation did for the city of Lowell in regards to Lowell High, which, by the way, is looking dynamite, absolutely is a career, getting that money. Absolutely incredible. Senator Kennedy, Representative Mom, Howard, and Elliott, absolutely incredible that they saved us that type of money.
All right, so you have to wait on your partner, Chancellor Julie Chen, to
Yes.
make the next link announcement. You also teased about something in the jam.
The jam plan, yes.
Yeah, the jam plan. When is an announcement coming on that? You were almost as excited about that as you were about Link.
We are so it's like anything else. You're always waiting for that shoe to drop. And it's been out there. I've been talking about it. We've been working with HUD to try to get a $10 million grant in and around the jam area. What that would do is allow us the ability to build up, to help developers, to help building owners. That hasn't come through yet. And once again, if we don't get this, we're just going to take another swing. We're getting back up to bat.
Does the bond bill that the House is working on and the housing bill that the governor and the Senate will eventually take up, is that part of what you have to wait for? Is this something independent of that?
No, the HUD $10 million is coming from the federal government.
Okay.
But I want to make sure I talk about that in a second. I read some things today in the House budget, which I was very happy with some of the monies, but that'll still go through Senate.
Right, that's a ways off.
I try not to get too excited about those. Because
But ADUs are coming to Lowell after that whole knockout, drag-out fight last year. The ADUs by right are coming to Lowell and every other community in the state.
My concern would be, what does the Senate do? What will the Senate do with ADUs? But not just
if
ADUs.
the House is doing ADUs by right, the Senate,
I would agree.
The Senate may do skyscraper apartment complexes by right.
I may tend to agree with that, but I would think that there may be other things in there that could gum up the process, that could gum it up, and it's what the House didn't do and what the Senate wants. But that's my old life. But getting back to HUD, there's a $10 million grant that we have. Our Congresswoman, by the way, Congresswoman Trahan's been knocking it out of the park with bridges. I mean, it's just absolutely been doing a fabulous job with Senator Markey and as well as Senator Warren. But we've been working with them on this HUD piece. And Lori I talk to often. I say all the time, pretty often, a couple times a week. The senator's office, I'll talk to them when I need to speak to the senator, but mostly I talk to their number ones. And I'll tell you, Liam in Senator Markey's office has been dynamite. Absolutely dynamite, chasing this down with Lori's office and Markey's office, trying to get us positioned in a better position for this HUD monies. If that HUD money comes in and we can actually make a difference over in the JAM plan, when you're looking at JAM, you see a lot of one-story, hardworking people that have their business and work their tail off. I think we could go 5 stories, 6 stories up in that area, increase housing, increase density, right next to the MBTA zoning. We're taking MBTA. The council voted on MBTA zoning where other cities and towns are trying to get away from it.
Right.
We're accepting it. We know it's going to be, I think it's going to be a great thing. If someday soon you're going down Appleton Street, for instance, and the Owl Diner is still there, and you see a 5-story building, a 6-story building, so on and so forth, going on down, if those private folks want to see their investments go that way, and keep their first floor retail. I think that, and that's the best part about this job, looking at reimagining, not necessarily Jackson Street, because that's
pretty much developed.
We did a pretty good job on that for the last 25 years, right? Appleton and Middlesex, if we can hone in, get that money from the HUD, and if we don't, we're going to apply for the next one. That's what we're going to try to focus on, to try to increase housing in that area, as well as other places.
Okay. The Inn and Conference Center.
Yes.
Story the other day that there was an arrest made in Chelmsford, sexual assault, somebody living in one of the Chelmsford hotels right around the corner from me, used to be your district.
Yep.
Basically misbehaved, sexual assault allegations in another state. Didn't boot him out of the country, booted him out of the hotel he was in, and he ended up in Chelmsford where the same thing happened. Mm-hmm. Some folks are wondering, what's going on at the Inn and Conference Center? Do you have any such concerns? Because we're seeing reports in the Herald, Howie Carr is more than happy to point them out. Hotels all over the area that are housing migrants are having major issues with police calls, crime calls, fire calls, etc.
I want to say today, as of today, June 6th, we had our challenges out of the gate. We worked with CCA as the organization, and the governor's office and everything else. There wasn't a choice. This happened. But I think with the administration and the council asked me to make sure that we keep a hold on this. We were meeting Wednesdays and Fridays, every Wednesday and Friday, to have a discussion as to what was going on. It has been full. We have had limited issues. And these issues really, and I really believe this to be true. I had the superintendent of police, the chief of fire. There were no discussions. This is how we're operating. This is the order of operations. And I really believe getting in there early with our health department, with the, once again, police and fire, and saying, this is how we do, this is how we get out of buildings, this is what is acceptable, is what is not, has gone very, very well. Now, does that mean June 7th or forward there won't be an issue there? No, that doesn't mean it at all. But for the number of people that are living there,
it's a lot.
It's a lot. The number of people that are living there, think about it. You got 480, I think, and I should know the number off the top of my head. This is one number I'm pulling. I think it's not 500, but it's close to. If you had 500 people in a neighborhood, have there been any problems, any calls, anything? Well, if you're considering this a neighborhood, this isn't an issue today. But
you reiterated, I've been checking with certain police sources as well, and I'm hearing the same thing.
It's not,
you guys aren't whitewashing it
no.
At the moment. Okay.
No, we are.
And hopefully it stays that way.
But we're dialed in every single Friday. What are the issues? What are the concerns? What are the problems? How do we help? Right? We've accepted this. This was given to us. Nothing much we can do about it from the state side. And I'm not blaming. I'm not getting into the whole, should anyone be here, should they not? This city is a city of immigrants, but I'm telling you, as of today, with minor infractions, and really it was the fire department. There's been a couple of calls for health calls and things like that, but this is a no-nonsense order of operation. This is what we're doing. This is how we want it, and we have a willing partner in CCA. I have to tell you, they're very good. They're very, very good. We've upgraded cameras. We've done a whole bunch of stuff. And, we're actually looking for the future of what that will be from an economic development standpoint. That is something that I've talked to the chancellor about. Those ideas are future to come.
You're at the midway point of year one. It's a 1 year with an option to renew. Has the state notified you yet if they're renewing for a second year?
They have.
When do they have to notify? Well, they technically have to notify the university.
The university, right? That's correct, because the university is still owned.
Is there a deadline so you guys can plan ahead? You said you're planning for the future. When are you planning for the future 2025 or the future 2026?
That's a good question. We're just planning for the end of this. And I'm going to say it's the 2-year mark of when it was full. I'm not getting into wordsmithing. Well, the first person moved in, but there were a lot of people that weren't there for a long, long time. They opened it up, worked the bugs out, the kinks of the system. And I think with that, so to be straight, I don't know when the end is. When does that 2 years start? I can't give you that answer. We've been talking to the administration about so many other things that we have going on. This will be something, after speaking with the chancellor at length, what's next for the Innan Conference Center. And that's still, once at TBD, but those discussions she and I have been having and others. So
okay. And last but certainly not least for me, the bane of my personal existence, the Lord Overpass, the Big Fill, where you took a perfectly good overpass that let people go right under it and get the heck out.
That was ugly.
You've now got people. It was ugly. We could have beautified it. For $23 million, you've got the biggest blocking of intersections going on right where Dutton curves and meets up with Fletcher, and there's people constantly blocking that intersection during rush hour traffic. And I get it. It was one time I like zoomed through and thought, the cars were going to keep moving. And instead I was kind of sticking out. I get it, but there's still room to maneuver around. Right. But now the second and third person are coming up and now you're blocking it. So when the light turns green on Fletcher, nobody's moving on Fletcher. Right. Fletcher is a nightmare trying to get to the Lord Overpass. And I assume either the connector or the Gallagher terminal. Can we step up some law enforcement? If you start ticketing people there, you could avoid that trash fee for another couple of years. If you start citing people for blocking an intersection, you get that 0% tax increase.
Listen, Police 10 has gotten caught in the middle too.
Yesterday, I noticed there were 3 cruisers stuck going all the way back to the Hafner.
Because you're sitting there saying to yourself,
can't move either.
No, but you also, what you're doing when you're driving. You're like, yeah, this is fine. I can go, right? Yeah. And I've gotten stuck myself.
It's so bad. I saw a bus use the bus lane. And then the funny part is the guy gets to the top, stops at the red light, and the light turned green, and I passed him. Yeah. I got through there before. Finally, the poor guy does the right thing, and he pays the price.
We have talked about blocking the box, and that's that. I have noticed it recently that people are blocking. You know, I try not to do this at all costs. I can name the streets off. Coming down Mammoth, if I'm out in Pawtucketville, you know, McDonald's is one of those famous ones. Because it's right there on the edge. It's probably not in the right spot, but it is what it is, right? Don't block the driveway of businesses because it just hampers everything. And don't block the box in the intersection.
Some communities actually paint the box and it screams to you, don't block the box.
With the big X's and everything else.
I mean, that's a relatively cost-effective way to
It's a cost-effective way, but it's also anyone that drives or is paying attention. But it's even happened to me. And I think I pay attention. I try to pay attention. And I mean, for God's sakes, I'm in a marked car.
Yeah, you have those fancy blue plates. You're not going to get a ticket.
Yeah, no, I'm not getting a ticket.
I might.
But I'm not going to get a ticket, I don't think. Maybe I could. I don't know. But the point is, you know, every time I'm trying not to do the wrong thing, I myself have gotten stuck in the box, and it's embarrassing. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this, you know. But we need more education on that. I talked to the chief about that, the superintendent of police, and there's parking issues and blocking the box issues. And my biggest pet peeve, no matter what time, coming back over the bridge, over the Cox Bridge into Centerville, if I see one more New Hampshire plate, shoot up the left and cut off right. That's the only time. It's the only time I wish I could pull people over. It's because it's new. You know, it's irritating.
Enforcement and fines work. They'll work with the rest. Listen, I went to Myrtle Beach and I quickly learned that you don't even block a crosswalk, which is a bad habit that I've developed up here because you're always trying to take a right on red. So you're putting yourself in position. You block the crosswalk. In South Carolina, that's a fine. Forget blocking the box. Blocking, you better be 5 feet behind the crosswalk or you risk a fine.
The sidewalk issue, same thing. And I've become really aware of that. And sometimes people just, you know, you get so many things going on. People are doing it. There are those, I think I would like to say the majority of people do it by accident. Like we talked about, oh, damn, I thought I was going to get through and I didn't. Ugh. And now it's the uncomfortableness of like, what am I doing here, right? And you're trying to go up or you're trying to sneak around. But there are some arrogant people. They really are. And I just, you know, the people that make the mistake, you know, I want to give everyone the first opportunity, a warning, give them a pass, right? But there are some people that just don't care. Some people, you know, that I see the same cars over and over again when I leave any time at the same time going across and they time it right. They know the light's about to turn green for the other guys, so they just zoom in and block the intersection. You can see the slow play, right? They're kind of not getting up behind the guy going left. They're just slowly going there, and then you know it's coming. I've seen it in Boston a million times.
Right. Well, City Manager Tom Golden, as always, thank you for the time. We'll agree to disagree on the trash fee, but. At least
you know something.
At least you stood here and answered the question.
Well, you know, I got aggressive on it. So.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Good luck. Keep us posted on Jam, Link, whatever. We got to get you and the Chancellor back in here quickly.
Let's get that interest rate down. Let's tick it down a little bit, and I think we're going to have a lot of excitement.
All right. We're trying. Thanks. Till next time. All right. We thank City Manager Tom Golden for joining us. We thank you for joining us as well. Agree, disagree? You hear the manager's point of view of why Tuesday night's budget process went down the way it did and why the budget was written the way it was. Thank you for joining us here on Inside Lowell. As we like to say, Inside Lowell. If Lowell is your home, this is your place.